Hi, my name is Tim, and welcome to the Mathleague.org Digital Grading Initiative. We were the first math contest in the world to deploy an online grading system, a system that has now been replicated by many contests all over the world because it is very fast, very efficient, and scalable. Thank you for your interest in helping us grade our tests. I'm going to take you through the process, show you how the grading works, how to get logged in, how to grade the tests, that sort of thing. So when you are given an announcement that grading is ready to begin, you'll be given a URL that you can use to log into our website, and you'll also be given a password. Now, the URL will differ depending on whether you're dealing with number sense tests or other tests. I'm going to start you off today with the other test. We're going to go through the rules, and then we'll log in and we'll actually do the grading. All right, so for tests that are not number sense tests, you're going to have three options for each question. You pick yes if the question number is correct and the number in the answer blank matches the correct answer. I'll show you what that means when we get to the actual grading. You click no if you don't have an exact match. Now, almost every single problem is going to be either a yes or no. The only time you would click maybe is if there's some sort of mistake in the system. Right. So if there's no image, for instance, you like it doesn't even show what the student is answering, or if there is a website error, or somehow the question number doesn't actually match what it's supposed to. All right. So in other words, you would never ever click maybe because you don't know what the student wrote. You only click maybe because you think there is an error with the actual website. Okay, I hope that distinction is clear. Again, there's almost never going to be an opportunity to click maybe. All right. Maybe is not, oh, I can't tell what the student wrote. That's not a maybe, right? If you can't tell what the student wrote, then you mark it no. You only mark it maybe if if there's some sort of problem with the website. In other words, if Mathleague messed up in giving you the picture, then you mark maybe. If the student messed up, you mark no. All right, so every problem that is not an integer, the students will be told the exact form that the answer has to take, right? So you have to mark it wrong if they give a different form. So if the answer is 1/2, then they cannot write 0.5 or 2/4, right? They've been told exactly what to do, and if their answer is not the same as what it shows you on the screen, you have to mark it wrong. Okay, the students are supposed to do the math, so you're not going to be making any decisions about, oh, is this the same number as this? Because that's not your job, that's the student's job. All right, so make sure that they do their job and that you make a comparison between what the key says and what the student wrote, and that is how you're going to determine whether the answer is correct. All right, so if there's extra stuff in the answer, like a $sign or units or commas, letters, anything like that, ignore that, and you're going to focus only on the numerical answer, right? So your job is to look at just the numbers that are there, not the extra symbols or units or anything like that. So you ignore all of the extra stuff if they wrote letters or anything like that, and you focus on what the number says and make sure that it matches what the answer key says. All right, from time to time, you'll make mistakes. It's fine, everybody makes mistakes. The great thing about our system is that this question will be seen at least 3 times. If anybody makes a mistake, it will actually be seen more than that, so that we can correct that mistake. So if you make a mistake, the other people who are grading will correct it, so it's not a big deal. All right. The system is optimized for use on smartphones. So if you have a smartphone, you'll be able to see your screen oriented like this. Don't hold it where it's wider than it is tall. Hold it like you see on the screen here, where it's taller than it is wide. If you have an iPad or a tablet, you're going to want to hold it again so that it is taller than it is wide. If you're on a computer, I'm actually on a computer right now, then you'll want to adjust the size of your browser window like I have, so that again, it looks like a phone screen, because that way you'll be able to see everything you need to all at once. All right, down here at the bottom is a space for an email address. So I'll go ahead and put in our company email address, customercare@mathleague.org. You, of course, will put in your own email address. And each time you'll be given a password. I'll put in the password that we have set up for the recording. But of course, when you do the test, when you do the grading, you'll be given a separate password. Hit the submit button. All right, on this screen, you'll see that it shows you what question number you're supposed to see. This is question number 10. You'll notice it says 10 down here. That's matched. That's great. If there was some problem and you didn't actually see question number 10, then you would click the maybe button. But again, that almost never happens. So your job now is to read what's in the box, the number that's in the box, and make sure that it matches. Now, this one's kind of tricky. I specifically designed this video with a bunch of tricky options here so that you can see what you need to watch out for on these. If you look in this answer blank, there are no numbers written. There's no numbers. This is just letters. Remember what I told you on the instructions? You ignore all the letters and you only pay attention to the numbers that are written. There are no numbers here, so the student did not write the number that shows at the top. The student wrote a bunch of letters, okay? I need you to really understand this because, you know, even if you're reading this and you're trying to interpret it and you're like, oh, I think that's the same thing. It's not, okay? Only if it's an exact match. There has to be the 5 written out so that it looks like this shape of a 5. There has to be a 2 written out so it looks like this shape of a 2. That's the only way that the student gets credit for this. There are no numbers in this answer blank, and since the student did not answer the correct answer, they get a no. All right, so moving on. Next problem, question number 5. Yes, it's question number 5. Great. So we look at what's in the answer blank. I see 1680. I also see 1681. Remember, you ignore the letters. And I'm seeing 2 different numbers down here. If they give you 2 numbers, it is automatically wrong, right? They don't get to like list every number in the world. And then you're like looking through, did the right one show up somewhere in there? No, you don't get 2 guesses at the problem. They only get 1 chance. And they didn't only take 1 chance. They wrote 2 different numbers here, and the stuff in the box does not match exactly with what's at the top. This is a no. All right, take a look at this one. Read what they wrote. 4 and 19 over 20. 4 and 19/20. That's what they wrote. Now, look at what they're asking for. 4.95. Now, if you work the math out in your head or on a calculator, you will realize if you type them both into a calculator, they'll give you the same result. But that's not your job. Your job is not to do math. Your job is to determine whether the students did the math. Students didn't do the math here. They were told to do this division problem, 19 divided by 20, and actually get the 0.95, and they didn't do it. Right? So even though these 2 numbers work out to be the same thing, there's no 5 down here. I see a 5 up here, right? They had to write that 5 after the 9 and they didn't do it. I see a 2 down here. I don't see any 2s up here. I see a fraction bar down here. There's no fraction bar up here. This is not written exactly the same way, so it doesn't count. We have to mark that a no. All right, what about this one? I see a 6, I see a 3. Right? That plus sign is just a symbol. We ignore the symbol. So what is this answer? They wrote 63 as their answer. They did not write 9 as their answer. Again, if you start doing math in your head or on a calculator, you're doing it wrong. All you're doing is looking for, did they write this symbol 9? No, they didn't write a 9. They wrote a 6 and a 3. That's not a 9. You make sure you mark that a no. All right, how about this? What did they write? 15.001. Wow, that is so close to 15. Can't we just give them credit for it? No, they're not the same number. Now, let me use this as an opportunity to explain why we mark these wrong. All you're given is a student's response and an answer key. You don't even know what this question was. Remember that 4 and 19/20? You might have been like, oh, yeah, that's the same number. How do you know what the question said? Maybe the question said, please turn 4 and 19/20 into a decimal, right? Now, if they just write 4 and 19/20, they haven't done anything. They've literally done zero work at all. So you don't know what the question says. That's why you have to rely just on what the answer key says and compare it to exactly what the student wrote. For this problem, who knows? Maybe the problem says round 15.001 to the nearest integer. No, this isn't the right answer then, because that's not rounded to the nearest integer. Again, you don't know what the question is. All you know is that you're looking for the number 15, and they wrote extra stuff. They wrote something that is not the number 15. You mark that one off. So this one's a little bit clearer, right? They wrote 1/3. The answer is 5/8. So that's a no. This one, they wrote 264 nights. Okay, remember, you're ignoring any letters that they wrote. And all we care about is the number. The number they wrote was 260, and the answer is 287. So they got it wrong. But if the answer up here said 260, this would have been okay because you ignore the letters. Similarly, with this one, we ignore all of the letters. And what number did the student write in the blank? They wrote the number 5. There's a perfect match. So that is a yes. For this one, you'll notice that they wrote the units, but we ignore that, and all we pay attention to is the 64. 64 is the answer. By the way, I want to point out the progress bar at the bottom. Now that we've gotten a little bit into the grading, you'll see that you might not have even noticed there was anything there before because it was so small. But as the grading continues, you'll see a progress bar that shows up. It's going to be an orange bar that eventually will reach its way all across the screen. And this kind of gives you an indication of how far into the grading you are. Now, as you're going along, if there's a lot of grading, you'll see this progress bar move fairly slowly. If you ever see the progress bar move backwards, that just means that more grading got dumped onto the system. But then so it's measuring basically what percentage of the grading has been done. So obviously, if we dump an extra set of grading on there, then that lowers the overall percentage that's been done. But then we start from there and we continue working forward with the progress bar. So you're kind of, yeah, so this kind of gives you some idea of how close we are to being done with the grading. All right, back to the question. They wrote 336. The answer is 336. That's wonderful. So at this point, you'll see that we have this 5 adult tickets showing up again. We saw this one before. Every once in a while, depending on how many people are grading, you may end up seeing the exact same thing twice. Don't worry about it. Just grade it again and it'll be fine. Remember, just like last time, we look at the number. There's only one number in here. It's the number 5. Yes, it's a match. So we're going to click yes. All right, here's another 336. Yes, it matches. We'll click the yes. Here's another 64 that matches with the 64. We click yes. Here's another 336 that matches with this 336. We click yes. And we see that we've finished the grading. The progress bar is all the way over, and we're just waiting for the next round. Now, at a contest, we'll typically have 2 or 3 different dumps, sometimes more of items onto the grading pool. So at each opportunity, you'll be notified. If you're there in person at the contest, you'll be given a verbal notification, or if you're grading remotely, you'll be given an email notification letting you know that it's time for more grading. All right, so grading is done. Wonderful. You're just going to wait for the next announcement. Next, we're going to move on to number sense grading. For the number sense grading, if you are on a computer, go ahead and open up your browser to the full screen. That's usually the best way to do it. If you are on a tablet, you can make it so that it's wider than it is tall. If you're on a phone, you'll also want to put it so that it's wider than it is tall. So the difference between number sense grading and the grading for the other questions is that you're actually going to see 20 questions at a time all on the same page. And then you're going to have an array of bubbles, and you're going to either click yes, no, or help if you click anything at all. The help is exactly like the maybe on the other grading, right? You're probably never going to use it. But if there's some problem with the server, you get a broken image or the website isn't working or something like that, right? In other words, if it's a technical issue, click help and let us know. On the other hand, if you just can't tell what the student wrote, that is always a no. Okay, you never ask for help. You never click maybe just because you can't read the student's writing. If you can't read the student's writing, that means that it's wrong. So you have to mark it wrong. So yeah, we got the help just like the maybe on the last one if the website is broken. But again, you'll probably never ever click it. Now, with number sense, one thing to note is that students typically will answer less than half of the questions on the number sense test. The average student will answer fewer than half the questions. So it does matter on number sense whether they skipped it or whether they got it wrong. Remember on the other test grading, if they left it blank, then it's not a match and you counted it wrong. But for number sense, it's important to know if they actually just didn't put anything, right? So that's what the skip is there for. Now, like I said, because typically more than half of the questions go unanswered on number sense, skip is the default, and you'll see that on the next screen. So when you call up the screen, it'll have everything filled in as skip already, and your job is, if they didn't skip it, you're going to click either a yes or a no so that you can identify whether they got it right or not. Same thing as the other grading. Students have been told exactly how they should express it, so don't accept 0.5 or 2/4 if the answer is 1/2. Again, you ignore any letters, commas, symbols, anything like that, and you're going just for the number. One thing I do need to point out that's a little bit weird about number sense grading is that every 10th problem is an estimation problem. They're going to tell you in the answer what the lowest and highest possible answer that the student could give, and as long as the student is somewhere in that range, then you give them credit for the answer. Just like with the other test, every number sense question will be seen by at least 3 people, so you don't have, if you make a mistake, it'll get fixed. Don't worry about it. Just keep moving on. All right, so we put our email address, we put our password in here, and we get to our first page of the number sense. Now, this will happen a lot. You're going to see a page where the student didn't answer anything at all. So with this one, this is not one that you need to deal with. You just glance it quickly, just hit submit, right? Notice that all of the buttons are already on skip. So if I see a completely blank set of questions, I leave everything on skip and I just hit submit. All right, now I'm on the next page. You might have noticed that the last page had numbers 61 through 80. This one now has 41 through 60. Student left this one completely blank as well. Go ahead and hit submit and we can quickly move on to the next page. All right, so this is a column that's pretty much filled out. So we need to actually grade these. All right, so let's see. What we're going to do is take a look at every one that they give an answer for. And we're only going to pay attention to what's in the answer blank, right? So there's a bunch of little numbers out here, like a 21 I saw, and like a 1 that they carried. That's not in the answer blank. You only pay attention to what's in the answer blank. You only pay attention to the numbers that are in the answer blank, and you compare it over here. 191, number 1, the answer is 191. There's a match, so I'm going to click yes. All right, next up we have 9. Here's a 9, that's a yes. Right. Now you'll notice the first column is the yeses, the last column is the no's. We made sure that they're as far apart as possible so that there's no confusion here. All right, number 3 is 218. Here's a 218, that's a yes. 96 matches with the 96, yes. 14 matches with a 14 over here, that's a yes. 1, 1, that's a yes. All right, what is this? 1103. Let's double check that. 1103, that's a yes. 171, 171, yes. 189, 189, yes. Now we come to our first estimation problem. Remember, I mentioned that the estimation is going to be the lowest possible answer they could give you is here, and the highest possible answer is here. So we look at what the student wrote. The student wrote 4,000. 4,000 is not in this range. It's lower than the lowest number we would accept. So this is a no. It's a no because 4,000 is not between these two numbers. So we click no on that. All right, keep going. 198, 198, that's a yes. This looks like a 913 to me. So I'm going to double check 913. Yes, that's correct. All right, look at number 13. This is weird, right? Because all of this stuff is kind of out in the margin, right? So we're not looking at that as their answer. What's in the blank? There's a, I don't know, an upside down U, a scratch, or whatever. What number did they put? There's no number, right? I don't see any numbers in the answer blank. I see like maybe just a drawing, but there's no number. What does no number mean? It means they skipped it. Right. Remember, we're not marking it wrong if they leave it blank. We're just going to leave it as, we're going to call it a skip. Now, remember, it's already listed as a skip over here, so we don't have to do anything with that. Great, we just move on. 324, here's a 324, that's a yes. 980, 980, that's a yes. 770, 770, that's a yes. This one, they left it blank, so we'll leave it as a skip. 18, they also left blank, so we leave that as skip. 19, it looks like they wrote 896. Let's double check. Yes, 896, that is correct. And number 20, they wrote 120,000. Now you'll notice the 120,000 is higher than this number and lower than this number. That means it fits inside these two numbers, and you're going to give that a yes. All right, so we're done with this page, and we click submit. All right, you'll notice that the progress bar has been increasing as we've gone along, so that's great. So I know I took a lot of time on that last page. Here's a different page one where looks like they filled in all the answers. Let's go ahead and go through this kind of a normal speed, right? 191, yes. 9, yes. 218, yes. 96, yes. 14, yes. 1, yes. 1103, yes. 171, yes. 189, yes. 4862, that is between those two, so that's a yes. 356, that's wrong. It's supposed to be 198. 913, yes. 0, yes. 364, ooh, it should be 324. That's a no. 980 is a yes. 770 is a yes. 974, yes. 120, yes. 796, oh, it's supposed to be 896. That's wrong. And 120,000, ignore the comma and just look at the number 120,000. That's between these two, so that's a yes. Right. So you can see that obviously you can go pretty fast on these if you sort of get into a group, right? If you're not having to, record an instructional video telling people how to grade every question, you'll be able to move a lot faster on the number sense. And you may even find that you can process a page of 20 questions in 20 seconds or less, which is great. So we'll hit submit here. All right, progress bar is moving right along, so that's great. Let's take a look at this one. All right, I have a 216, that's not 6. This is blank, so I leave it as a skip. 156 matches. Here's a blank. Here I've got a 5/12 for number 25. It's 5/12, yes. 676, yes. This looks like a 6/3. Now, obviously 6/3 is not the same number as 18, so we're going to mark that a no. But remember, even if the answer said 2, you're not going to give them credit for 6/3, okay? Because they're supposed to actually do the math to show that it's a 2. Okay, 1375, yes. 17, yes. 50,000, that looks like a 50,000 to me. So I'm now I do want you to notice here, it looks like maybe they started to write a different number here, but then they wrote the 5 over it. To me, it's pretty clear that this number is 50,000. They, whatever they started to write, ultimately they intended to write 50,000. Okay, let's come over here. Yes, that's within the range, so we give it to them. 5625, that's a yes. 20, yes. All right, now here's an interesting one, okay? They gave us 2 answers. They gave us 16/100, and they gave us 16. Remember what I told you on the other grading? You can't let them give you 2 different answers. If they give you 2 different answers, it doesn't matter what the answers are. It is automatically guaranteed to be wrong. right? Students do not get to try two different answers, because if they did, what's to stop them from writing every number in the world and being like, oh, but it was there, I promise. No, you don't get to answer the question 100 times. You get to answer it once. The student did not follow that rule. They tried to give us two different numbers, and that's not a match. 216, here we go. 6,039. This one was left blank. 7224, that's a match. Here's a blank, here's a blank, and here's a blank, so I leave the rest of them blank. All right, let's hit submit. All right, what is this? That looks like a 1/2 to me. So I'm going to come over here, and I don't see a 1/2 here, so mark it a no. Now, if you thought this was a 1/2, then go with that. If you thought it was a 2/2, I could kind of see that, then you grade it as if it was a 2/2. You are making the judgment call here. You are trying to decide what you see and match it up against what's in the answer key. If you looked at this and you said to yourself, I honestly don't know if that's a 1/2 or a 2/2, then it automatically gets counted wrong. Okay. So again, if you can't read what the student wrote, it's automatically wrong. It's not your job to waste a bunch of time trying to figure it out. It is your job, it is the student's job to tell you what they want as their answer. And if they don't do a good enough job, they don't get credit for it. 5625. Now, some people would look at this and be like, oh, they gave two answers. Don't worry about the spacing, okay? The answer is 5625. So we would look at that and give them credit, okay? And in fact, you might even apply the same idea up here at number 21, right? Maybe, maybe don't look at it as 18 and a 54. Maybe look at it as 1,854. Or if you're looking at these numbers also, what do we got? We have 18,542,233, right? Like literally, if we ignore the symbols, then all we're left with is those 7 digits. So either way, it's good, it's wrong, right? But down here, the thing is, you can't look at this as a 56 and then a separate 25 and count it wrong. Okay, the student had the numbers exactly, everything in the blank is exactly what we're looking for. So you have to give them credit. All right. Just like with number 32, you can't look at this and be like, oh, the student wrote a 2 and the student wrote a 0. That's two different answers. No, it's a 2 and it's a 0. And then here's a 2 and a 0, right? 2 0 over here, 2 0 over here. Give them credit. All right. Look at this one. 17%. All right. So what is the student's answer? The student's answer is 17. The percent sign, we ignore that. Remember, we ignore the symbols and we only look at the number. The number the student wrote was 17. That doesn't match, so we give them a no for that. And then all the rest of this page is blank, so we can go ahead and hit submit. All right, and now we're done with the number sense grading. So now you've seen an example of how to grade the number sense test as well as the other tests. I hope that this was helpful for you, and we look forward to having you help us with the grading. Thank you.